you so much for joining us back here at the Treadling Home Kitchen. This morning we're going to be making cinnamon blossoms. We're going to be making it with some leftover Never Fail pie crust that I have, and I'll go ahead and link that in the description below so that you can have easy access to that. Alright, I'm going to drink my coffee while we make this because it's pretty early, so let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is take your muffin tin, and you're just going to line it with whatever muffin papers you have. So that's done. Then you're going to flour the area that you're going to be rolling out your dough on. And you're going to break your dough in half. So this is a quarter of a recipe of Never Fail pie crust here in my. And whenever it comes out of the freezer, it's going to be a little bit too moist, so you're going to need to knead it into some flour. So we have the flour on the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit more on top here. Whoop, that's a lot, but whatever. Brush it off. Then go in with your hand, pull it back over, and all of a sudden, you're kneading. Some of it might stick to the counter or whatever you're rolling on a little bit, so just pick it up and put some more flour there. And all you're doing is getting this back to the texture that you want it. So alright, that looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and throw a little bit more flour down while we roll this out because this is still really soft, which is what you want. I'm just kind of patting this out because we're going to cut this into strips whenever we're done rolling it out. So alright, you take your rolling pin and flour your rolling pin. Roll out. That looks pretty good. And that is probably 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe. Want to get in there? It's pretty thin. Alright. And we're going to take our trusty pizza cutter and we're just going to cut strips here. And as with most things in the Treadling Home Kitchen, it doesn't really matter. This isn't an exact science. You're just making something for breakfast. If you're trying to impress somebody, like if you have people coming over for tea and you want to use this for brunch or something like that, you can go ahead and use a ruler to make sure that all of your strips are even, but if that's not really the case for you, just kind of eyeball it. So, there we go. That looks pretty good. Take off the jacked up ends. And then you're left with this sheet of dough, okay? And I like to cut it before I butter it because it just makes it easier for rolling purposes. Plus you don't get all that sticky stuff on your cutter. So all this is softened butter. I always keep a container of butter on my table. So we're going to go ahead and spread this evenly over the pie crust dough, and then we're going to sprinkle it with some cinnamon sugar. Actually, a lot of cinnamon and sugar. That's what makes them good. And then we'll go ahead and roll them up and get them in the pan. Again, this is not an exact science. Just kind of spread it on there. The butter's just to adhere the cinnamon and sugar to the dough. Please forgive the autofocus. We're using a different camera than we usually do. that looks pretty good. It's all slathered up pretty nice. Alright. Now I have just an old jar that I got with some Christmas candy at Marshall's. And the lid is a ball seasoning lid. These things are pretty sweet. So I just mixed up some granulated sugar and cinnamon. And we're just going to take this, and the big holes are fine because you're going to be liberal with the cinnamon and sugar. So I find it easiest to start at the farthest end. So I'm right-handed, so I'll start at the far left. And just kind of sprinkle your way over. You're going to make a mess. Embrace it. And then go back over. Till it's all kind of crusty like that. Alright, now comes the fun part. We're going to roll it up. So, there's a technique to this because some of the pie crust might stick to the counter. You're going to take your thumb, okay, put it up against the counter or whatever your rolling surface is, and you're just going to kind of coax that first piece up like that. And once it's up, you can just start rolling. And if it breaks a little bit, don't worry about it. I hear that makes it rustic looking. So we're going to layer up probably 2 of these cut sections to make our blossoms. And they're called blossoms because they end up looking sort of like a rosebud or a rose blossom once they cook up. So, it's got a little bit of sticking going on there. No biggie. Alright, that's about perfect. Then you're going to take this and you're going to put it in your cupcake paper. And you're going to smush it down just a sketch like that. I'm going to go ahead and roll up the rest of this batch, roll out the second half of the dough that I have, and get that in here too. So we'll be back here in a few minutes. Hi, welcome back. We have just finished rolling up all of our cinnamon blossoms here and gotten them into the pan. Note, I made a couple of them too thick. So here's what we ended up with. These are the first couple that we did, and then this is the second batch. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in for 5 minutes, and then we're going to check the smaller ones because they'll obviously be done before the thicker ones. So the thicker ones are probably going to take about 10 minutes at 350, and the smaller ones will probably be like 5-6 minutes at 350. So we already have our oven preheated. Let's go ahead and toss these babies in. Go. We're going to set our timer for 5 minutes. There we go. I'm going to get cleaned up because it's a messy process and have a cup of coffee, and we'll see you back whenever these are ready to be checked. All right, it has been 5 minutes, so let's go ahead and give those smaller ones a check here. Ooh, those are actually cooking up just about right. So we're going to go ahead and turn it 180 degrees. Or as my mom says, flip it. And we're going to leave it in here for another 5 minutes, and then we'll check it again. It has been 5 more minutes, so a total of 10. Let's go ahead and take a look at these. Oh, look how pretty. Alright, so those aren't quite golden brown or anything. See how they're super gushy still? So we're going to go ahead and leave these in for another 5 minutes. I always recommend making these 5 minutes at a time because of the sugar content. The bottoms will burn pretty quickly. So we'll do 5 more minutes and we'll see you again here in 5. Hi, welcome back. I kind of lied about the amount of time that these took. I'd only had like a 1/4 cup of coffee, and I was hungry, so I way underestimated the time. It's been like 20 minutes instead of 5, so it's a total of like 35 minutes. So, let's go ahead and take a look at these. I have been checking them every 5 minutes though, just to make sure. How's that look? See how they're nice and golden brown on the top? And if you poke them, they don't give too much. Wow, that was really hot. That was dumb. Okay. So, gonna set them up here. Turn off the oven. There we go. Grab a plate. I love my owl plates. We got them as a wedding present from one of my lifelong friends. So, let's go ahead and grab a butter knife to get these out of here with. Side note, you should probably wait about 5 minutes at least to try to get these out of here, unlike I did. There we go. And turn it out. Ideally, you'll wait a couple minutes, but my husband and I are hungry. So, there you go. Cinnamon blossoms made with never fail pie crust. Super easy. It takes a couple minutes. So, if you're hungry, I don't know, have a glass of milk or something while you wait for it. So, thank you so much for visiting the Treadling Home Kitchen. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.